Welcome back. 9 years. 9 years in a row that the Detroit Red Wings have missed the playoffs. And this was the year that there was some hope. I had some expectation this could be the year they make it, but they fell off again. This is a team that got very close to making the playoffs last year, and this year they were not as close. They end up 5 points back of a playoff spot. And shortly after the coaching change they made, and we'll get into all that, it really looked like they were pretty locked into a playoff spot, even though they did have the tough schedule down the stretch. They had been playing well before that, but it wasn't sustainable, and so here we are yet again. So looking at the 9 years they've missed the playoffs, and it's so weird to see them miss the playoffs for that long, since my memory is of a Detroit team that made the playoffs every year. So 2016, 2017, 482 points percentage. That's their first year outside the playoffs. The following year, that points percentage drops to 445. It goes up a little bit to 451 the following season before bottoming out 2019 2020, 275. Yeah, 275 points percentage. 2020 2021, they went up to 429. Then they went up to 451 in 2021 2022, so back to that number. And then in 2022 2023, a 488 points percentage, the closest to 500 they had been since the last year they made the playoffs. And then last year, they finished with a 555 points percentage. So really strong improvement. And this year it drops back down to 524. So above 500 for back-to-back years, but that is very little solace to a Detroit fandom that's starting to get tired of this Yzer plan taking so long. And my faith in the Yzer plan did get shaken this year. Absolutely did. This is a team that I do feel like should be better than what they are, and maybe some of the young guys coming up are going to help. Maybe something else needs to happen. So looking at their leading scorers, Raymond, 82 games, 27 goals, 53 assists, 80 points. He had quite the year. I think there's still more growth there. Dylan Larkin, 82 games as well, 30 goals, 40 assists, 70 points. DeBrincat played all 82 games, so a lot of these players stayed healthy. 39 goals, 31 assists, 70 points. So close to 40 goals for DeBrincat. Patrick Kane, 72 games, 21 goals, 38 assists, 59 points. With Kane, he still has the speed. He still has the shot. He's not as productive, obviously, as he was years back. And he is older, and he's on an expiring contract, so we'll see what happens there. Moritz Seider, 82 games, 8 goals, 38 assists, 46 points. Marco Kasper had a really strong second half of the season. I think they have a keeper here. 77 games, 19 goals, 18 assists, 37 points overall for Kasper. Edvinsson, I want to talk about a few of the younger guys, and Edvinsson's on that list. 78 games, 7 goals, 24 assists, 31 points. Just fits in on that blue line quite nicely. Berggren, 75 games, 12 goals, 12 assists, 24 points. I think there's a 20-goal season there for him next year. Sure, I could see it. Soderblom has started to develop into what we'd hoped that he would. You just plant the guy in front of the net on your power play, and it's like blocking out the sun. 26 games, 4 goals, 7 assists, 11 points for Soderblom, who also saw time with Grand Rapids this year. Then there's the goaltending. And when they picked up Talbot, I understood why you'd pick up Talbot. Talbot at least gets you to the playoffs, usually. 21-19-5 record for Talbot, 901 save percentage. There wasn't enough consistently good play there, but the goaltending was an issue for Detroit in general. Lyon, 14-9-1, so the record's good, but the 896 save percentage could use some improvement. And then they re-added Peter Mrazek at the deadline from Chicago. He goes 2-2 with a 902 save percentage. I thought he looked all right. So there's the possibility that Talbot and Mrazek are back next year as the goaltenders, which may not thrill Detroit fans, but both of them are still under contract for next year. So the last time this team even won a round was 2013. So now we're 12 years removed from them winning a round. We are 9 years removed from them making the playoffs. It's been a long time since Detroit had any success. But this summer, there's that chance. They have $21.34 million in cap space this summer. And there aren't any upcoming RFAs for this summer that are going to cost them a lot either. So there's definitely some money there to add. And they do need to add. And I think probably going to be looking to pick up a forward. I'll just say that. And maybe they'll look at the goaltending market and see if they can make an improvement in net. So looking at their contracts, there's some good contracts here. I think Larkin, good value at $8.7 million until 2031. Raymond, bargain, $8.08 million is the cap hit on him until 2032. That's a bargain for Raymond. DeBrincat, $7.88 million cap hit till 2027. Andrew Kopp's contract is one people talk about. It has 2 more years left in it. It runs at $5.63 million per season. And yeah, Kopp's contract hasn't aged well. I feel bad. He's a player I like, but yeah, it hasn't worked out that well there. Comfer gets talked about a lot in that regard, in that it's a $5.1 million cap hit for Comfer until 2028. Do they get their money's worth? Do they not? I have a feeling you know what the comments on that would be. And then you get to the blue line. Moritz Seider, $8.55 million cap hit until 2031. Looking at some of the contracts that are out there, I think that's going to end up being a bargain as well. We're going to see a lot of players getting above that $10 million cap hit this summer. And it's not going to be Seider, not until 2031. So, yeah, Detroit, the more that the cap goes up, the better that contract's going to look, obviously. Sherratt has 1 more year left at $4.75 million. Hall has 1 more year left at $3.4 million. That is $8.15 million to Sherratt and Hall. That comes off the books next summer, but not this summer. Mrazek, $4.25 million cap hit for 1 more year as well. And Talbot, $2.5 million cap hit. That has 1 more year left on it. So the fact that those contracts have 1 year left on them, there's the possibility Yzerman might be able to move one to make more cap space, to get better additions. Maybe there's a trade involving goaltenders upcoming. We shall see. Now, their pending UFA list, Patrick Kane is on the list. He will do what he wants to do at this point. I would think if he's like, yeah, I'll return to Detroit, he can do that. He can do pretty much whatever he wants. Craig Smith, who was a rental at the deadline. Tyler Mott, good bottom 6 forward. Replaceable? Yeah. Petrie, also on the expiring list. And Lyon, the goaltender who played well for Detroit at points, but I do think that's a replaceable goaltender as well. Then the restricted free agents, you got Soderblom, who I think probably gets a 2-year extension. Berggren, maybe you look at a longer-term extension for Berggren. Maybe it's a 4 to 5 year deal. And Johansson. Johansson had a good year, and so it might be in their best interest to give him a 4 or 5 year deal as well. I say this knowing that a lot of contracts are just 7 or 8 years by default, and there's a good chance that at least one of those restricted free agents gets a massive long-term extension, because that's kind of how things work with general managers and contracts now in the National Hockey League. So, their upcoming players, Axel Sandin Pellikka. I don't know why I said Excel, but there we go, like Excel spreadsheets. Axel Sandin Pellikka, playing for the SHL this year, 46 games, 12 goals, 17 assists, 29 points. Strong numbers for a defenseman. Played for Grand Rapids, 2 regular season games, had 1 assist. And then in the playoffs, Grand Rapids taken out 3 straight games. He did not record a point in those 3 games. Michael Branzig-Nygaard, in the SHL, 42 games, 5 goals, 6 assists, 11 points. But in the playoffs for Grand Rapids, 3 games, 2 goals, 1 assist, 3 points. And I get the feeling they're going to want to see what he's able to do this year at training camp, and he might get himself into the lineup. Nate Danielson, during the regular season in Grand Rapids, 71 games, 12 goals, 27 assists, 39 points. In the playoffs, he had 1 goal in 3 games in that series against Texas. Sebastian Casa, the future goaltender, and maybe he gets one of the spots that has been occupied by Talbot, Lyon, Mrazek at points this season. Casa, 21-15-5 record, 911 save percentage in the playoffs, 0-2 with an 868 save percentage. Grand Rapids did get swept. And then there's Trey Augustine, another goaltender. And what's interesting with Augustine is, rather than signing with Detroit and becoming a Red Wing, he has opted to stay with Michigan State for another year. With Michigan State this year, 19-7-4 record, 924 save percentage. And there's a debate about whether Casa or Augustine has more upside, which one of the two is better. But in Augustine's case, does he sign in Detroit? Do they end up having to move his rights at some point? There's always a discussion to be had with NCAA players. Usually they do sign, so I don't see any reason why Augustine doesn't, unless maybe he looks at the goaltending charts and says, I don't know where I fit in here, that kind of thing. But I'm just spitballing. Honestly, I have no reason to think Augustine won't sign with them, and I will never be upset with a player for choosing to continue their education rather than signing a professional contract. We have seen how many players get injured their first couple years in the NHL, and that's it. They're done. Get your education. Get that degree, and it really can come in handy just in case that whole National Hockey League thing doesn't necessarily work out for whatever reason. So the general manager is still Steve Yzerman. and it does not sound like we're going to see a change in terms of general manager. I don't know how many more years he's going to get with the Yzer plan, but the Yzer plan's still rolling. And Todd McClellan is still the coach. A couple weeks ago, McClellan said he was going to make changes to the coaching staff. He was looking at that, which makes some sense. And it would also make sense for Detroit to keep McClellan. When you look at the records of these coaches, under Lalonde, the Detroit Red Wings were 13, 17, and 4. Under McClellan, 26, 18, and 4. So much better under McClellan. And that's even with the fading they did towards the end of the season. I do understand why there's doom and gloom around the Detroit Red Wings. I don't share it necessarily. I think this team is going to break through at some point soon. And I'm still surprised they didn't make it this year because, yeah, at certain points they looked really good, especially after they got rid of Lalonde. McClellan comes in, they win a bunch of games. All of a sudden they're above the line. They have, their own fate in their hands. And then it just didn't work out for them. So things are going to have to change in Detroit. But do you change the forward group, the defense, the goaltending? What changes first? This is a team that is looking for answers. And I really wish I could just provide them straight out. I do think that if Kane leaves, they need to find another veteran forward that can do what Kane was doing for them. And it might be in their best interest to find another, even if Kane sticks around. Find another veteran forward, like what Corey Perry does in Edmonton, for instance, and try to find somebody who can, lead by example, or at the very least, give them the kind of play that should get them to the playoffs for the first time in a decade. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. As always, hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. I will talk to you again soon.